Alright guys, so in today's video I want to speak about my tattoo apprenticeship, how I got my apprenticeship, what sort of took me to want to get an apprenticeship in the first place, want to get into tattooing and that sort of stuff. So I guess I'll start by introducing myself. My name's Lewis, I'm 28 years old, I'm from Southampton, England, and yeah, I've got a passion for, art, tattooing, anything sort of out there, way, music, all of that good stuff. So for me, tattooing made perfect sense. I guess we should go back to sort of, when I was younger and when I was drawing and when I was exploring these sort of things when I was at a very young age. And I think when I was, my earlier years when I was growing up, I'd love to draw. It was a massive hobby of mine that got lost over time, to be honest with you. I'd always, been quite good at drawing from a young age, and I had a mate called Reese Hillier, who's now passed away, rest in peace, Reese, who, really inspired me to draw because his stuff was awesome. And yeah, I just feel like, from around that age, from sort of 0 to, the age of probably when I stopped drawing when I was about 9 or 10, yeah, I was really inspired by sort of cartoony things. My granddad drew a lot of weird things back then as well. Not so much weird, but just funny, cartoony drawings, and we draw together and that sort of stuff. And we still do, which is really nice and wholesome. But that's sort of where the love for drawing came. And then later on, where I guess the love for imagery came. When I was 15, I got my first ever tattoo, but around this point, I wasn't drawing anymore. I was addicted to video games and all that stuff, so I was a bit of a shut-in. And I think my creative outlet around that time was just YouTube, making gaming videos, that sort of thing, and also Photoshop, photography, which was, it's something that I'd done for a matter of years, but that eventually sort of fizzled out. So, when I was around 15, got my first tattoo from a scratcher, who's now in prison for murder, funnily enough. It's crazy. And then I went and got my next tattoo from the same dude, which is like a Half-Life tattoo that I've got on my leg here. And yeah, around that time, I was on Tumblr and I was seeing tattoos and I was like, this stuff's sick, but I can't legally get this, so I want to get a tattoo. So yeah, that was why I got those tattoos. And then, around those times I was seeing cool things on Tumblr, like fucking this dude with a shark on the side of his head, and I was like, I really want that one day. It looks amazing. That imagery is incredible, so vibrant and bold, and I know now to be the traditional style, which is my favorite style of tattooing, of course. And so yeah, I was getting tattooed from a young age. When I got to 16, I think I got my next tattoo from another scratcher who I didn't go around his house. He came around my house and tattooed me on my bed. And that was a fun time. I got a sunflower under my arm, which I had covered up 2 years later because it was shit. I had that covered up with a rose, and that's also been covered up now with a traditional dog head by a guy called Nicky Lat, who is a great guy. So yeah, I was getting exposed to tattoos at a very young age. I was getting tattooed at a very young age, which is, quite unlike some people get, maybe they do a stick and poke on themselves or something, but I was actually going and getting tattooed by people who probably shouldn't be tattooing. And yeah, so yeah, that was my exposure to tattooing from a young age. And after that tattoo with the rose, I didn't get tattooed for years, since I was probably 23. And I built up the courage to go and get another tattoo again, and I was terrified. I had to stop on the lines. That's been covered up now as well, but it was a butterfly that I had done that really wasn't very good, to be quite honest with you. But I really wanted a traditional tattoo, and I was looking around and I was like, where can I get more of these real solid tattoos that I'm seeing? Because, for me growing up young, I used to wear Bape, fake Bape, of course, couldn't afford real Bape, but I loved that style, the sort of punchy, cartoony, vibrant, vivid style that I was seeing tattooed on people. I was like, this is fucking sick. What's this called? And so my friend, who I'm not friends with anymore, her friend had these traditional tattoos, and I said, what are these tattoos called? They look amazing, And he said, there's traditional tattoos. So I started to look around for people to do these tattoos, and then I sort of started to stumble across these people. A guy called Jack Trolton who done this tattoo, which is quite local. It was really cool. And then I got one of my mum, and but I wanted something bold, and I started seeing these tattoos on Instagram, and I was like, no, I want something bolder. So I started just going around the country collecting tattoos from artists, right? I went to a guy called Nicky Lat who done like my hands, who I'd done a video on before on this channel. A guy called Craig up in Norwich, had my chest done by a guy called Simon L. another little piece by him. So loads of these artists, I was going and collecting these tattoos, and I was like, this is a fucking vibe, you know. I'm meeting these cool people, and I'm seeing what they're doing, and every time they tattoo me, I'm seeing the process, and I'm thinking, you know, I'd love to do this. This is cool. I get to speak to people, which, you know, I really thoroughly enjoy. I get to know people, and it's just a good time. And so for me, that was where the real love came from, was getting tattooed and spending time with artists and meeting new people and seeing how they communicate with people and hanging out in shops. And for me, that was like, this is sick. These people are cool. They're creative. They're doing what they love every day, and they're making really cool, interesting art. So for me, I thought, you know, like I'd love to give this a go. But obviously, you know, at that point, I had so much self-doubt, and I didn't really know myself. I knew that I could never do it. You know, in my head, it was like, no, you can't do that. So it took me a long time to just start building up the courage to start drawing. And around this time, I wasn't even looking for an apprenticeship. I just bought Oliver Back's flash book and started just redrawing designs from it, because I'd always doodled and drawn weird stuff, but I never got to the point where I thought, well, you know, I could start, you know, doing this, which, you know, clearly I'm doing now, which is insane. So yeah, I started to dabble around, and I've got a little book here which I'll very quickly show you, which is Random Scribbles, and I'll just show you a couple. These are like sort of, you know, these drawings here, just really random, like drawings that I was doing while I was at my office job, you know, just bored on the phone, this sort of stuff. So nothing great at all, really. It's just little biro pen drawings and just, you know, just pissing around. I can't really show you that one because it's really rude, but, you know, stuff like this. Even like the Slayer album cover, that was in 2020, so that was a while ago. To be fair, that was a good 5 years ago. I mean, that goes quick, right? But that was, you know, that was just a drawing that I'd done a few years ago, and you can really see, you know, sort of where it's at there. And even like just these designs that I was just, you know, sort of drawing from biro pen in the book. And I really enjoyed it. I was like, this is sick, you know, like, and then I started drawing stuff from imagination, which again, I can't show you because it's quite rude. That's a really old like portrait that I'd done when I was like 15, and it's just some dude that I know on Tumblr. But yeah, you know, that was that. And then, you know, I went through some stuff last year. I won't go into it, and I was struggling, and then I was like, fuck it, you know, I just, you know, my life's like, this is shit. I was working in this call center, just saving money every month, and that was all I was doing. And the money was great, you know. It was like, well, I mean, it wasn't great. It was all right. But then I was like, what the fuck is this? You know, like, what am I doing with my life? You know, I'm not happy. I'm just literally living paycheck to paycheck. I bought my Harley, but I wasn't happy, you know. And every day it was just like, get home and play video games. And it was like, that's shit. Why am I doing this? So, you know, I just started thinking, well, I want to start painting stuff. And this Flash is cool. I love Flash. I love this sort of stuff that I've got, you know, up here. And I was like, well, why can't I do it? So I started watching tutorials and doing like Flash painting. And I started to really feel passionate about it, you know, very, very quickly. It was like I'd been doing it for years. I was like, this is sick. And yeah, I done my first ever painting, which I planned out. You can't really see 2 hours of this rose. And that was it for me. It was like, this is amazing. Like, I'm really enjoying this. I want to keep getting better. That's my first ever eagle. I mean, look at it. It's not even, it's like got a weird bit. I don't even know what that is. It's, yeah, I wouldn't even call that an eagle really. But, yeah, so I was doing that. Okay. And I went into a shop, and I was like, look, I like, can I just like have an apprenticeship? And the dude was like, he looked at all my stuff, and he was like, mate, you've got to like, you know, all this stuff, like, you need to line it finer, and you need to like start like, you know, making stuff look proportionate and all this. I had no idea what I was doing, and he was like, look, just bring it back in a few weeks, and I'm like, you know. And I messaged him, and he didn't get back to me, and that was that. But he gave me a great tip, you know, and I took it. You know, I felt a bit shit. I was like, oh, you know, this sucks. And I'll be honest with you, actually, I actually stopped for a little bit. This was last year. I stopped for a little bit. I was like, no, I can't do this. And then I picked it back up again. I was like, no, fuck it. Like, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep trying to draw. I'm going to keep sketching, you know, and doing my thing. And I just kept painting constantly. And I've got some paintings here that, you know, I've got some paintings here that I done last year. These are all paintings that I done. There's fucking tons in here, you know. Like, there's way more as well. These are just some paintings, like sheets that I've done, you know. I just kept doing it. I got obsessed with it, you know. I got completely obsessed with it. And just some weird stuff, you know, like, and I just kept doing it, like, constantly, you know. And it got to probably, I don't know, it probably got to like last Christmas. And by now I didn't have a job. I literally left my job, right? I left my full-time job to like just like fucking get into tattooing, which wasn't really a good idea, but I had loads of savings, so it was okay, kind of, not really. But yeah, so I was just painting for months basically, and I had the savings to afford it, so I was just going at it, you know, constantly. And I got really obsessed with it, and I started just going into shops and asking people questions and everything, and you know, sketching and all this stuff. And I just started to build up a portfolio, which I've got here, but it's basically, that portfolio is basically what I just showed you, because my portfolio now is a lot different. And I just started to ask artists questions and stuff, and I went into a shop one day, and the dude gave me a chance. He was like, look, come back in a couple of weeks, let me know. I went back in a couple of weeks, and he said, yeah, this is looking better, come back in a couple of weeks time again. So I went back again, and I think I went back again, and he took me on, right? But there was no like, and it didn't work out basically. It didn't work out. I was there for like a month. It didn't work out, and it was like, you know, it's just shit. But by now, my girlfriend that I'm with now, who's amazing. She was like, look, I don't want you to give up on this, because you know you've got so much potential, and she really, you know, helped guide me through that. And at this point, I was going into a shop called White Smoke, which is where I'm at now, and I was painting for months in this shop, you know, just hanging out with the guys, because I know the guy Sam Duke who works there, and Gareth and their sound, and I managed to sort of get a bit closer with the guys, Akira, who's my mentor, and Nick, and I was going in there and just painting constantly, you know, hanging out. And Akira he wasn't like against me going in there. He was like, nah, dude, just come down, you know, I can't take you on because we ain't got space, but like, just like, I'd ask him on Instagram every time before I'd go, like, want to go down, and he'd be like, look, just come down, man, yeah, come on down. And it was like he wanted me there, you know, it was like he wanted me there. And I don't know, man, it's I'm getting a bit emotional thinking about it, but you know, it just felt really nice to be wanted somewhere, you know. And especially in an area that I really want to be in, because I know how hard it is to get into this fucking industry, right? Or to get into it properly anyway. And I knew I wanted to be at the shop because these guys, you know, they know what they're doing. Nick builds machines, you know. Nick and Akira have been tattooing like 15 years, same as Gareth, so they know what they're fucking doing. And Sam, you know, his sound, and Lily's, and you know, everyone in the shop, Hannah, everyone's really nice. And I was going in there like 2-3 times a week, driving all the way over there, and you know, on my savings that I had, and painting, and it was chill, you know. I'd go in there, I'd literally spend all day in there just painting, you know, and when I wasn't painting, I'd be chilling out and speaking to Akira. Some days I'd just go in there for a few hours and paint, do a bit of drawing, and some days I'll be in there literally like all day, you know, because I didn't have anything else to do. And that was it for me, you know. It was amazing. I look forward to those days, you know. I would spend time with my girlfriend and that, but I had so much free time that I wanted to make the most of it. So alongside applying for loads of jobs, I was also going in there and constantly, you know, like painting, hanging out, taking little bits from what Akira was doing. And I kept asking Akira, you know, like, do you mind if I just like watch you tattoo? And he's like, that's fine, but like, you know, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. We can't take you on right now. I understood that, you know, and so I just started building up this portfolio, right, which is like, I mean, just random paintings and stuff. You know, this is of the dude from the Windsor and Newton cover. Building up my like proportions and that sort of stuff. That's quite an old painting. Just doing like Hanyas and like Reapers, and just doing it in my sort of style. Slowly building a style, right? What do I like? You know, how do I want it to look? You know, all this stuff, you know, paintings, my business card, yeah, and then like, you know, Akira sort of tells you, be like, yeah, try and draw these, you know, try and do that, do this. I think we're nearly probably coming to the end of sort of where we're at there. These are just like, I don't even know, these are just like random. Oh yeah, there's another one that I've done, the recent one. Anyway, cool, so getting off track. Yeah, so I was just basically like, where's that page that I wrote? Where's that? It might not even be in here, to be honest. I'll probably put it somewhere else. Maybe I've just got so many bloody paintings. Anyway, so I was just painting constantly, building up my portfolio, and it took me months, right? I got this job offer for once. It was an IT job, and it was like I was really, you know, I applied for about 100 jobs because I needed a job at this point. I was running out of money, right? I was like, I need a fucking job, and I got this IT job, which is sick, and you know, like it was just crap for months, and then all of a sudden I get this IT job, and I'm painting in the shop. And Akira just like brings up this part-time apprenticeship. I just overhear him saying it, and I turn around and I see him smiling, and he's like, "What do you think of that?" And I was like, I didn't know what to think of that. I just felt overwhelmed. I was like, "Yeah, that sounds pretty cool, mate." Because I didn't know he was talking about me, and he was like, "Yeah, so like, do you want to be here then?" I was like, fucking, you know what I mean? Like, it couldn't have been more perfect. You know, this shop, the best shop in Southampton, right? Like, hands down. You know, for the style that I like and the vibe and everything, just everyone in there's so nice, and they know what they're doing. It's the best shop to be, right? It's the best place to be. And Akira offers me this, and I don't even know what to fucking say, man. I'm like, yeah, this sounds pretty good, and that was pretty much it. You know, that was the reaction that I had. It was, you know, mate gave him a hug. Was like, man, thank you so much, and it's just been perfect since then. You know, I've been in the shop. I've been painting, I've been doing all these things. I've been helping out, you know, cleaning machines, offering to do things here and there because I really want the shop to be right. You know, it's not a matter of I want to tattoo now, because I'm not tattooing yet, right? I'm still scratching up. I'm getting sort of up to scratch on my drawings and stuff. But I'm at a stage where, you know, I really enjoy being there. I'm there once a week because I work full time, so I can only be in the shop once a week. But Akira gives me homework. When I'm in there on Saturdays, I'm helping out around the shop, you know, that sort of stuff, cleaning the grips, cleaning around, sort of, you know, learning bits here and there. So that's where I'm at now, and it's been really good. And that's sort of how I got my apprenticeship. So it was through just showing up and being around. And yeah, this is like my most recent painting. I've done it's like a metal core like sheet. And I've just sort of learned, you know, a lot more about painting, about about drawing, about structuring, all of these things, anatomy, in a very short space of time by just listening to what my mentors tell me. You know, I've got my business cards here as well that Akira got for me, which is very kind of him. He actually literally bought those for me, offered to buy them for me, which was so nice. And yeah, I think so. That's where I'm at now. So I'm apprenticing, which is great. And although I'm not tattooing yet, we're going to be getting there. And so I think that like I really wanted to just make this video to talk about my experience and my journey, but maybe give a couple of tips and that sort of thing in terms of sort of what I've experienced anyway, because I don't want to like start, you know, telling people what should be, because everyone's journey and path is different. But one thing that I would recommend, and the only thing that I'd recommend, because getting into tattooing is like, there's so many different ways, right? But the only couple things that I recommend is don't rush. Because, like, you know, what do you want? Do you want to just be cool for 5 minutes, or do you want this for the rest of your life? And that's a very important thing as well, is that there's no rush, right? And I think it's really about enjoying the process. And for me, that's been the number one thing, because I love painting, I love drawing, I love making really weird and wacky ideas. I'll quickly go and grab, like, my sketchbook. And, you know, these are just like sketches, right? So like, you know, hands and, you know what I mean, like faces, and just like practice, you know. This is a process that I love. I love drawing, you know. There's a rose that I've done. And I think that's, to be fair, for this sketchbook, that's pretty much it. But I've got like, you know, way more like sketchbooks. Some tribal that I was practicing, that sort of stuff. So I think it's really important to like really enjoy the process. But I think, you know, the second most important thing, maybe the third most, you know, the second most important thing is just to really listen to what you're being told. Don't get too hot-headed, because I know that a lot of people, when they're told no, or when, you know, they're told what to do, or, you know, when they're suggested something, they might not always want to listen. And I think that the most important thing is to just be a vacuum for information, right? Is to take in this information from anyone, you know. I messaged this guy the other day, Jeff Whitehead, you know, one of my favourite artists and one of my favourite sort of musicians as well, Jeff Whitehead, Leviathan. I say, you know, I say to him, like, mate, I love the black that you use, because it fades out into a blue, and I always see this in his skulls and stuff, you know. And you know, I said, you know, I hope you don't mind me asking, but like, what ink is this? Because I've never seen this. And he just gave me a straight up answer. And I've been using this ink. I've been using this ink in my paintings. I don't know if you can tell the difference between this black and this, but it's like a very nice dark blue that fades. So it almost looks like a black, but it fades, and it looks amazing on skulls, on aliens, on like ends of daggers. I don't know if you can see that on robots. Okay, and I think this is what it is, right? It's about being curious and taking in information, and just showing that you're passionate, right? I think those are two things that I'd really suggest, and that have really helped me in my journey. And I think number 3 as well is to just, you know, if you really want this, then you're going to know it, because you're going to do anything for it. And, you know, for me, being in the shop and cleaning is so much more enjoyable than, you know, sitting in the office doing nothing. I don't complain about cleaning because it's the shop. I'm in the shop. You know, the shop is important to me. I'm passionate about this. You know, if someone asks me to clean something or do something, I don't think, oh, fuck's sake. I just do it because I know that, you know, this is part of the passion. This is what needs to be done. And so I think that for anyone else that may be watching this, that may want some advice on how to get an apprenticeship, just show up. Don't complain. Maybe do a little bit of self-development before you try and get into this sort of scene, this sort of, I guess, line of work, and you'll be okay. I think that, you know, it's just all about what do you want from it, you know, and really evaluating, you know, how long you really want to be in it for. What do you want from it? Do you want to display your art style? Do you want to, you know, put your art on other people, or do you just want to look cool for 5 minutes for your friends? Because I think that tattooing is an industry that needs to be respected, and I think that the people that are passionate last the longest, for sure. I've gathered this information from observing, you know, artists that I know personally that are very successful, that have done very, very well, because they breathe passion, and you know, I think that is very, very important. So, without going too much into it, because I am just an apprentice, that is how I got my apprenticeship. I think it's just by showing up constantly. I'll show you guys one more thing as well, like if I can even show you without like ruining, just like destroying everything. This is the big painting that I done with lots of designs. Okay, this is you know, this was a painting that I done over like, I don't know, a few days or a week from scratch of just drawings of imagery that I like, and of things that I've seen in real life as well. And I just done it on you literally can't even see it. It's absolutely massive. It's A1, so I mean, yeah, next to me you can see the size of this thing. And I think that's what it's all about, you know. If you love art, I'm just going to put that down there for a second. I think if you love art and you love drawing and you're open to doing loads of different things and not just tattooing your thing and your style, I think it's a very good thing, and I think you should follow that. But I think if you just want to replicate stuff and you think that's going to make you a living, it's probably not going to go too far. That's my opinion on it personally. Some people do, you know, they replicate trad all the time and stuff, and it's great. But I think that having that willingness and openness to doing, you know, to learning everything anyway, learning the basics, the foundations, the anatomy, which is what I'm working on still now, is very, very important. So I'm going to leave this video here because it's getting quite long. But I just thought that I'd have a little speak about my journey, and hopefully it can help you guys out too with, you know, if you really want to get into tattooing. It's something that, you know, for me, from what I've observed, is a very, very rewarding industry to be in, and I'm very blessed to be in this position now. Very thankful to my mentors for believing in me in the way that they have, and helping me out, and really investing in me from what I've seen so far. So yeah, without further ado, gonna leave this video here, I think. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you watched all 25 minutes of the video, then yeah, I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll have some more sort of tattoo videos coming up soon. Maybe put up my first tattoo, or a day in the studio, or something like that. And yeah, take care, guys. Cheers for watching.